Kinas kumna wauttakaa piitohtiik. Imini on sistema imiuittamaan mistä kotia uuttai Saskatchewan. Mui vuosin teemihan sama kriisigi itohtianen hänen matsma skolan märken kutsihtaan ei tipia ei temioja ei kakio gominai temioi kakio ma tutim teno naskuma kuisto teno ma vai päijät mechit niistä nään ei nuoni hananak nienanohtsa ei kohoma kakse trimiuistamaan kaapitohtiik Attavigo että minä jak. Mä kiapets. Missä on miettiin ottakaa kohtia.
Thank you, Delia. To begin, I'll introduce our panelists, who will then start with our series of questions. If you guys just want to give a wave when I mention your name, that'd be great. So Delia Opikaku is a Cree lawyer from the Canoe Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. She was the first Indigenous woman to be admitted to the Bar Association of Ontario and Saskatchewan, and the first woman to run for the leadership of the Assembly of First Nations. Next, we have Terrence Crosschild. Terrence Crosschild is a member of the Blackfoot Confederacy and now lives in Saskatoon. He won the Saskatchewan Marathon in 1998, in which he had to postpone his running as he battled an alcohol and gambling addiction. After completing a year-long in-residence rehabilitation program, he is now healthy and giving back to the community. Next, we have Darlene Okomesom Seekut. Sorry about that. Seacott, there we go. She is Cree from Beardies and Okamas First Nation near Duck Lake, Saskatchewan, where she was educated at Riviere Academy in Prince Albert and the University of Saskatchewan. Darlene has been working with the Gordon Tutusis Nicolae Theatre since 2013. She is also a 17-year member of the Saskatoon Concerned Citizens group, Women Walking Together, whose focus is on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Those are our three panels which will begin speaking at our event. We will host the panel for approximately 1 hour, followed by a short Q&A session. To conclude our evening, we will have a cultural performance that will take roughly 30 minutes, and we'll have them come on stage after. So to begin, the topic of today's panel is around cultural inclusivity. In correlation with the university's Indigenous Achievement Week, we correlated this panel to begin as we are wanting to express the importance of Indigenous people on our land. We will go through a series of questions around cultural inclusivity and why it is important here in Saskatchewan as well as across the world. So to begin, I'm going to get each of the panelists to introduce themselves and expand on the short introduction I provided them. We will start with Delia with the microphone.
Thank you. As she said, I'm from Canoe Lake Cree Nation in northern Saskatchewan. I now live in Toronto, but I'm very happy to say that I did build a home on my reserve, which I go back and forth a lot. And when I say I built it, because it was not my primary residence, I was not able to get a loan from CMHC, and so I had to pay for all of the costs, and it was quite an experience. My sister lives there, and she's done well with it, taking in some of our community members that need a space, young people, and that's really helped. Other than that, I have a practice in Toronto. I work across the country having clients as a lawyer, and I represent them with respect to land claims, and in Saskatchewan with Treaty Number 10, which is in northern Saskatchewan and eastern Manitoba, on their work on nation rebuilding.
Hello everyone. Thank you Shayna for putting this together, and I'm looking forward to sharing a lot tonight and also learning a lot from the fellow panelists. Oki, Tsanadapi, Idaniko, Itsunitobi, Hello, my name is Darren Crosschild. I'm a proud member from the Kainai Nation in southern Alberta, which is situated on Treaty 7 area. Anyone know where Treaty 7 is? Southern Alberta, Blackfoot? Yes, of course. So that's home. But I've been here in Saskatchewan for like 24 years, and when I moved here, as soon as I started cheering for the Rough Riders, I knew that this was now home. I'm a proud father to 4 beautiful children, and I have a loving wife named Celeste. So as I share, I want to acknowledge that they are here as well. I am also a son to my late mother, Joanne Weasel Moccasin. Weasel Moccasin is her maiden name, who is a residential school survivor, and I'm a son to Ross Crosschild, who makes his home in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and he is also a survivor of the residential day school. I'm a co-founder of Prairie Flooring Ltd, which is a First Nations majority-owned business geared towards excellence in the trade of flooring installation, and we create meaningful relationships and career opportunities for Indigenous peoples in Saskatchewan. I'm also the co-founder of Prairie Run Crew, which is a not-for-profit organization that brings a message of hope and restoration through living a healthy and active lifestyle. And we do this by loving and serving the communities that are proud to host us. And I really, really love to run. So if anyone wants to go for a run, let me know.
Wow, what a small microphone. I should do a TikTok. No. Anyways, my name is Darlene Rosewell-Kamaze-Peacock. I'm from Beardy's in Oklahoma First Nation by the town of Duck Lake. So I grew up around, between the fort and the monument there with the rebellion. So lots of tourists come through that neighborhood, and we were raised in the agency, right? Maybe a mile and a half from that little highway going to the fort. So it was not uncommon as a little girl to walk to the highway and see an RV drive by or stop, try to give us a quarter or take pictures of us. So I just wanted to share that little bit of piece so I have an idea of what being a little Cree girl was like in Beardy's in Oklahoma. And I had 14 brothers and sisters. My late father, was a veteran counselor, and he became employed at the residential school as a child caregiver and 25-year member as band counselor. And he also ran the bus system on the reserve, so we were a very busy house. My mother worked in the kitchen, in the dining room, so she attended St. Michael's as well. My parents, just so you are aware, part of that Indian residential school policies where they're obeying, men and women would marry, carry on, and live this Roman Catholicism life, and that's kind of how we were raised. But it wasn't enforced on us, because inherently we knew we were Indigenous, that we were Cree, and they never forced it on us. We chose to balance it out, or some just didn't absolutely do any Roman Catholicism. For myself, I took both, and I learned about our Cree language. So the first half of the kids were spoken fluent Cree, and the other half was my half. We were spoken fluent Cree too, but I understand it really well. So when I do some introduction, I just say, Nehewan Ispagu. I only know a little bit Cree. And of course, I'm the naughty words, but just to calm everybody down. Just kind of fast forward. I'm married and I have 4 adult children, 3 boys and a son, so a daughter, and 4 little grandsons under the age of 7. The 2 little ones have special needs. They've been fed through the nose, so we've been taking care of them. So it's been really busy. Just going to fast forward a little bit more. So I got my education in Revier in Prince Albert, and then here in Saskatoon, here at the university, and I did school training. I studied sociology and women's studies. Also, I became very active in the student politics. So, if I hadn't done the student politics and I just focused on school, I probably would have did a PhD. I know that I could have, but I really loved the people, the students, the campus, and just kind of, trying to be included all the time. So I kind of, I can't say I wasted it, but I just want you guys to know that when you're in a big environment like this, there's all sorts of things that come about in your evolution as a student. Then I became employed here. I worked here for 9 years at the Native Studies Department, and that was when they had faculty wars. So I went through 5 department heads in 6 years, so it was like having 5 chiefs in 6 years. It's very hard work. So, just to give you an idea of my evolution here on this part of the territory. But getting out of the university and its theory and methodology, really wanted to get back out and went into nonprofit. And part of that was the volunteerism of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I became co-chair, note-taker, and we had no office, no government funding. It was a way for us to do the autonomy and the legitimacy, awareness, remembrance, and supports to families. So no one can ever shut us down. If we were needing to be adversarial to the system, we were able to. Nobody could take money away from us. No one could take office away from us because we had none of that. We just had ourselves, and we've been doing it really pretty well in Saskatchewan. I'll get into that more later in some of the questions. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, panelists, for expanding on your background and for providing us a glimpse into your journey. So we're going to begin with our first question dealing with cultural inclusivity. And I asked each of the panelists to kind of brainstorm what does cultural inclusivity mean to them. And so I'm going to start again. Delia, do you want to start again?
To me, cultural inclusivity means that one should value all individuals and welcome them and respect them. It's not just, inclusion doesn't mean that you interact with equality with people of different races, ethnic background, gender, cultural, age, and sexual orientation. It means so much more than that. It means that you value two-spirited people, for instance, and their individual struggles, their victories, how they survive. I interact a lot with them in Toronto, for instance, because there's a lot of Indigenous two-spirit people there because they are not as valued in their own local communities, and a lot have moved to the big cities, including Toronto. And they have such a welcoming culture there. I was their lawyer for a time. They have a group, and I interact with a lot of races, Toronto being a multicultural city, but I also make sure to interact with my own people, and that's why I have, for instance, even though I was in Indian residential school, 2 residential schools for a total of 11 years, I was still able to maintain as much as I could my language and my culture. And it meant having a deep respect for my grandparents and my parents. And by the way, I have some relatives here. My sister is here, Teresa, and my niece, Jade, who's a student at the University of Saskatchewan. I'm so proud of her. And I have some community members from Kinolake, Clem and his wife. So that's, to me, inclusivity does not just mean other races. It almost so means inclusivity with your own community and your own family.
Wonderful, thank you, Delia. Karen?
Yes, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was talking to my elder, Joseph Natal, about a lot of the questions, and I said, I always feel nervous when I'm going to speak at the university. So he said, you can always share your experiences, what you've been through, because no one can ever deny that or take that away. So cultural inclusivity means to me is that, where everyone feels welcome. and free to express who they are, regardless of their race, social class, ethnicity, religion, gender, and ability. It's an understanding of who you are, what makes you you, your culture. Understanding that there are other cultures that are different than yours, and wanting to learn from one another. And then we value each of their unique contributions to society, all the while feeling safe to do so, to be able to express who you are, what makes you, you. I want to relate this to the start of a race. I'm not sure if you've ever been in a running race, so it's one of my favorite things to do. I love the start of a race. There's music going, there's people on your left-hand side, your right side, all around you, all in running gear. And, different brands of clothing, they all had different stories on how they got here, how they trained to get to the start line. And I love how I don't know everything about them. I don't know who they voted for in the last election. I don't know if they have a degree or not. There's not a whole lot. But when that gun sounds, the gun goes off, we are all running together to be able to complete this race. And at the end of the race, when we all cross that same finish line, we all experience that same victory. We all have something in common, that relationship. And so I just find that very, very, to me, it's a great thing to experience, because I don't know them. But for one moment, for this 126.2 mile race, we're all as one and we're all moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks for the inspiring story, Taryn. We'll pass it on to Darlene.
Hi, I'm going to just kind of go on two parts here. I really look at the unconscious bias when it comes to cultural inclusivity. For myself as a Cree woman in Saskatoon, heterosexual, married, and when I cross paths with people I don't know yet, and what happens in those first 10, 15 seconds, what's going through my head of what they think or what they think of me. And then you're growing up in a big family, you get used to the noise and the miscommunication, so you wait a little longer. You got to do a lot of listening. You got to watch body language, eye contact, and sometimes when it gets too busy, like this campus when before COVID was here, you're just walking by so many people, and you don't make those connections. You can make those biases on a basis that's either positive or negative, and out of those come, stereotypes, myths, prejudice, racism, discrimination. And those are the things that could come with what you're thinking or what they're thinking. And it boils down to the relationships. But for me as well, on cultural inclusivity is with Indigenous people as well. When you're in a big campus like this, you're meeting many different types of Indigenous people across the country, in the province, around the world, and they're visiting. It's how they situate themselves here in Saskatoon, and when they're visiting, how do we perceive them and how do they perceive us? And then you have these jokes, Crees fight with Blackfeet people. Just kidding. Anyways, but it's just, those kind of the things that kind of come up. But for myself as a Cree person, I found I'm going to keep referring to the university because this is, I'm planted here right now for this next hour. So I want to kind of relive some of those differences. I found that I was more engaged and welcomed and mentored and created friendships from people out east from the Haudenosaunee culture. I became really good friends with late Trish Montour, very good friends with Dr. Martin Cannon, and a longtime friend of Ty Alfred. And sometimes I would wonder what did they see in the little secretariat Native Studies? Well, they just saw me as who I was, but they also saw they were situating themselves when they were here into Cree country, predominantly Cree country, and those are the predominantly people that they met. So in that experience, I just continued to learn how to, not position myself, but to read how I behave with other Indigenous peoples. So it's not cultural inclusivity as Indigenous, non-Indigenous. It's with each other. Like the three of us were very different. She's Northern Cree, most likely from Canoe Lake, and I'm Southern, I'm Plain Cree, and we have Blackfoot, Kainai. So that's how I see cultural inclusivity, diversity.
Wow, thanks you guys for each of your unique perspectives on the question. Tarrant, we'll start with you for this question.